So in the next problem, what we have seen that given a feed distribution and the product distribution, how we can estimate the power consumption if other informations are also provided. So in that problem, we have seen that the work index of the material was provided and the feed and the product distribution. If something sort of this information is given to you, how you can estimate the power consumption, and eventually from the power consumption the total cost which is required in breaking the process, breaking the ore. And the ore there was, I think it was a coal or something like that. No, nothing was mentioned, it was an ore. Anyway, so what we have seen finally that the cost which is involved in breaking the particle is huge. The annual cost came around almost close to 21 lakh rupees, which is a huge amount only for breaking the particle from a given feed distribution to a given product distribution. So job was to make the particle from this combination to this combination, so this feed to this product, and the cost involved, the annual cost involved was around 21 lakhs, which is a huge amount. If you think of a industry perspective, this is just a preliminary step before you get the particle in your desired size and do other processes. So if your preliminary state is itself is so costly, and the reason behind this so huge cost is the low efficiency of this entire breaking process, because we lose lot of energy in many places. So how we can estimate the efficiency, that also we will discuss today. But before moving that, let us try to figure out some of the probabilities that is involved in crushing or breaking the particle, which has not been encountered in the laws that we have discussed so far. So the laws that we have discussed so far, the general statement of the law or the general equation that can represent the three laws together was given something like this. So here you can see that like if I give you a particle and if I give you a machine to break the particle, it has been taken into obvious that if you put the particle into the machine, the particle will break. But there can be a situation where you give the particle or you put the particle into the machine, the particle may not break. It can go out from the machine without even touching the surface of the machine. So there are few probabilities which is involved, whether a specific particle will break eventually or not. It doesn't look very intuitive. Like suppose you take a mixture of 100 particles and I ask you to find out whether the particle 5 will break or not. So it might happen that the particle 5 does not feel any force throughout the entire process, and it escapes through the entire process and eventually go out as a product, go to the product without even touching the surface of the grinder or crusher. So that might happen. So how to encounter those probabilities? Those probabilities is not being encountered in this law, because it is taken into obvious that if you try to break a particle, it will break, and this is the law. These are the laws which will estimate the energy that is required to break that specific particle. Now if I try to use the same equation, suppose I wanted to use the same equation but I wanted to incorporate those probabilities, right? So how we can incorporate the probabilities in this equation only without altering much? Can you suggest some ideas like where we can incorporate the probabilities? The probabilities, the whether the particle will break or not. Suppose you have a machine and the machine has a moving arm, right? Let me show you one of the images or videos that. So this is an image of a jaw crusher. So this is one of the crushers. So you can see that it has a static arm and it has a moving arm. And if you put the feet on the top of it, what would happen? The moving arm will move in one direction and it will eventually hit the particle, and the particle will hit this moving arm as well as the static arm, and it will eventually break to a smaller size and it will go through. Now it might happen that the particle, some of the particle has an initial size such that during the opening cycle of the jaw crusher itself, the particle may pass through without even touching the jaw crusher. That might happen. There is a probability. Like there is a probability that the particle may not hit the crusher at all. It might pass through. Right. But you are spending some energy in moving the jaws. Right. So you are spending some energy to break the particle, but eventually you couldn't able to break the particle because the particle escaped through it. Yeah, this is one of the possibilities that might happen. Now, what can be the other probability that the particle will not break? So let us go back and recap the basic mechanism of the size reduction. Stress, strain, fracture lines of weakness, reduction of release of heat. Right. So this is the basic mechanism of particle breaking. Now again take the example when you put the particle between two moving arms and your particle is moving through this two arms. Let's take this example. Right. So let's take any particle. Let's take this particle. This particle is moving like this, moving with gravity like this. Now, what is the chance or what is the probability that this particle will eventually break? So, what are the events that is involved? Can you name one? One event I had already discussed, like whether the particle will hit the surface of this moving arm or the static arm or not. If the particle didn't get a chance to move, and suppose during the opening cycle the particle get a chance to pass through the crusher fan without even touching it. So there is one probability that whether the particle will hit the other particle or the jaw crusher. If not, then the particle will pass through and it will not break. What is the other probability? Like let's the first probability to be true. Particle hit the arm of one of the arm of jaw crusher. Now even if the particle hit the arm, is it very obvious that it will break? Yeah, any thoughts?
Sir, it might stick to the arm, like it might never pass through, or
Yeah,
like it is small enough that like like there is some minimum distance between the arms, so it is small enough that like it gets stuck to one arm, but the second arm never like could crush it.
yeah, that is what you are saying, that if the particle gets stuck on the arm, the chances are high that it will be eventually heated by another particle, right? So the particle will not stay inside this entire region. It will pass through. If it is there, it is not to be considered as a product. The particle will eventually pass through. Now, what is the probability that the particle will break? That's the question. You have a particle here and you have a particle, the same particle here. What is the chance or what is the probability that the particle will eventually break during this passing process? First probability I already told, the particle has to hit one of the arms or the other particle so that it feels the first step. The first step has to be the stress. The stress that has to be externally imposed on the particle and the stress that will be generated because of the impact here. So the first probability that the particle has to hit the arm of the moving jaw or the
Sir,
jaw.
if the force is not sufficient enough, like for
Yeah,
some particles.
yeah, you are close by. Just a bit more precise. Just look at this one.
Sir, it cracks but not breaks like completely.
Yeah, but if I take these steps, so is it obvious that if the particle feels a stress, it will always generate a crack on it?
The force might be less than the critical stress.
Yeah, if the force is less than critical stress, so it will not generate any crack in it, right? Even though it
Yes.
has a stress on it. So there is a probability that this particle, what I am seeing here, it hits the arm, but the impact is not good enough to reach to a point where it can feel the presence of a crack inside it, right? So it hits the arm and it even easily moves through, right? So the first probability, if the first probability is true, then the second probability will, the question of second probability will come, right? Now, if the both the probabilities are true, it hits the arm and the impact was sufficient enough so that it generates a crack. But is it sufficient enough that the particle will break? Again, take this case, you will understand more. First probability is it has to hit. The second probability is the impact has to be high so that it generates a crack. So if these two probability is true, is it can we be very sure that the particle will break?
Maybe yes.
Yeah. So if yes, so is it possible to have a situation like that? You have some particle in the product where the particle itself has an internal crack inside it, but the particle is still intact. It's not broken into multiple fractions. There can be a possibility like that.
So please repeat.
So there can be a possibility like the particle has an internal crack inside it, but the crack doesn't propagate to a large extent so that it eventually breaks the particle. That can be a situation where you have a particle, it has internal crack, but the crack is not good enough so that it ruptures the particle into multiple size. Something like this. You can have this type
Sir,
of particle.
sir, but that gets covered in second case, right? Like the force is not sufficient enough to break the particle, even
Now,
if the crack is present.
now the force is not sufficient enough to generate a crack.
Oh, okay.
This one, just look at this image. This one, you can see this condition. You have a crack inside it, right? So you can have this type of particle going out without further pushing or further stress.
Yes,
So
sir.
from here to here, it again involves another probability. The probability that the impact is so huge that it will generate the crack and the crack will also propagate to the next edge of the particle and it will eventually break into multiple sides. And then finally you can say that you have the particle broken into smaller sizes. So what probabilities we has to be true? So there is 3 probability which has to be true for a successful breaking of a particle. First is it has to hit the wall of the crusher or grinder, whichever you are using to break it. Second, the impact has to be sufficient enough so that it generates an internal crack inside the particle. Third, the impact has to be so high so that this internal crack, whichever you have generated, that has to pass through and propagate to the next edge of the particle, and eventually the particle will break. So these 3 probability has to be true to have a successful breaking of particle. If one of them is not true, you will not get the particle break into a smaller size. Although it looks very obvious, but this 3 probability is there. Now, how we can incorporate these 3 probability in this crushing law, in this general expression of crushing law? Any thoughts like where we can incorporate without altering much of the terms? We can modify 1 or 2 terms, but not altering the entire equation itself. We have to incorporate these 3 probabilities. Any random idea like where we can club these 3 points? See, this has a constant, right? This has a constant, which we have taken to be a constant. Now what we will do, we will club all these probabilities into this constant itself, and we will modify this one. right? So whatever we are discussing in this class specifically, this probability and all these things, this is not there in any book, right? So this I have taken from a journal paper, and I will share you the journal paper also. The paper is published long time back, so I'll share you the paper. So you will not find this one in any book. So just try to understand this part carefully. And some of the equation and I'll be showing you here today. So it's not possible to like derive all these equation, but the general functionality we will appreciate. So several probabilities involved. First, we have already discussed whether or not the particle hits the objective. Second one, whether the collision is strong enough to produce a stress larger than the breaking stress of the material. So it will, the second probability will ensure that you have a crack inside it. The third is whether the crack tip within the solid will propagate and eventually break the solid. Now we can individually calculate these three probabilities, but this involves a huge amount of
Sir,
knowledge. Yeah.
sir, but I was thinking like the force required in the third case, will it not be like always less than the force required in second case? The force
Yeah, that,
required to propagate the cracks will be
yeah,
less
that,
than the
yes,
initial
obviously,
gem.
obviously. But how does that matter here?
Sir, then if the second criteria is met, then the third will already be met, right? Like the force was
No,
already sufficient enough.
no, that is what I told you. Like we can have this type of condition, this condition. This is not obvious that if you have reached to this point, this will lead to this one. You again take any soft material and try to break it. You will see at an intermediate stage that the particle has a crack, but the crack is not good enough that it ruptures into multiple fractions. The particle ruptures into multiple fractions. I think you have seen in practical life also. You have seen particles, stones here and there, which has a crack inside it, but not entirely fragmented into multiple sizes. Have you
Sir,
seen
like,
that?
but yes, sir, but like in that, suppose for the jaw crusher example, like, aren't we considering that there will all obviously be like more than one impact on a particle? Like,
No.
then in that, oh,
Yeah, this we will make sure that the particle, most of the particle will hit, but we cannot ensure intel absolutely that the all the particle will hit. That we cannot assure.
oh,
Because
that
see,
comes in the first probability.
yes, and the second probability is your impact may not be good enough because you are feeding it at a specific flow rate, right? So the impact on a specific particle, you are talking about the entire feed mixture. If I talk about the entire mixture and do an average, then obviously the size will reduce. That's true. But just think on a single particle perspective. There are chances that the particle may hit the one arm of the jaw crusher or two arm of the jaw crusher, but suppose the particle hit here and topple here and move out. So the first probability is true, but the second and third is not true. Now it might happen, it hits here, it generates an internal crack, but the second hitting, it didn't feel the second hitting, it just move out. So the first two probability is true, but you still didn't, the particle still didn't break into multiple sizes. You have still the particle intact. The particle will become fragile. Now you can easily break it. A small amount of force will be good enough to break the particle, but still it's not broken into multiple sizes.
Yes, sir. Got it.
You got my point?
Yes, sir.
Not very intuitive, but if you think very carefully, you can think that you can understand that what we are discussing, it's making some sense. What you are saying is generating a crack, the energy required to generate a crack inside the particle, that may be high enough than the additional force that is required to propagate it. This I can somewhat agree, but it depends on particle nature. It depends on many factors. But intuitively, it feels like if you have a particle like it, you require more force to generate a crack inside a solid particle. Then once you have a particle which already had a crack inside it, you require a relatively smaller force to break it now. Now, the quantity of force is difficult to estimate using a general equation. Anyways, all these probabilities involve a lot of like background knowledge of solid mechanics, which we don't have. So we will see how the functionality is involved here and how the functionality looks like. We will not go into the direct derivation of all the equation. We will only see the terms which is involved in this operation. Yeah, the general equation that includes all these three probabilities along with 1 by L by N, which we have seen in the general expression of all the crushing laws. So we are basically rewriting the equation into a different form. This is just a simple algebra. You try to see it at your home, like how we can get this expression from this one, from the general expression that we have discussed here. Right, it's the same thing. You just have to, we are just changing the variable, nothing else, and writing it in a different form. So this will look something like this, where this capital N is small n by 2. This small n we have seen in the general crushing law. And this capital E is the energy required to crush a unit weight of particle of size L. This is the characteristic length. Now this dependence of C, the dependence of C on particle size and crushing mechanism must be further clarified to include the uncertainties. The uncertainties means the probabilities. So this C we will include all the probabilities into this constant only. So then we are writing this C as a function of these three probabilities. And a new equation is proposed. Now using this equation again, you can estimate the energy which is required to break the particle, but including all the three probabilities which is involved in breaking the particle. The first probability is probability of collision, whether the particle will hit the one arm of jaw crusher, the example that we have seen. The second is P sigma, which is the probability that the material breaking stress will be exceeded. Breaking stress exceed means it will generate a crack inside the particle. And last is PA, the probability of the crack tip propagation. So I will just show you these three expressions, but we will not go into the derivation of this expression. We will just see how we can estimate all these probabilities. And K is ultimately another constant. So now if I try to see this example, and suppose I wanted to mark this PC, the probability of collision, which images I can mark? Let's start from here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's take an example where the probability of collision to be true. Now, if I say that the probability of collision is true, what we can say? Up to which image the operation is true?
Sir, 1.
1 or 2? One is not saying that, okay, it is touching the bottom surface.
Then
Basically
1
these
and 2.
Yeah, 1 and 2. The second one is obviously it generates a crack. Last one is the probability of propagation of crack and breaking the particle into multiple particles. Right. Now let's go one by one. First is the probability of collision. Now there is a theory of governing the striking of an object by a particle is described by the interrelationship between there's something called target efficiency and separation number. Let's not go into very detail and try to understand like what are these things and how we can calculate all this stuff. Just try to appreciate like how we can get an fairly rough idea of the estimation of this probability of collision. So for getting an idea of probability of collision, we have to construct something called separation number. The separation number looks something like this. See, all these parameters are a system parameter, but L is the characteristic length of the particle, mu is the viscosity of the surrounding fluid, rho is the density of the particle density, mu is the viscosity, and d is the diameter of the objective. So this is the equivalent diameter of the objective. And v is the velocity, particle impact velocity. So it's an ideal case, right? It's an ideal case. If you know all these terms, then and then only you can find out the probability. Obviously, in real life in industry, one cannot go and find out a specific probability of hitting a particle, specific hitting of a particle. It's not possible. But if you do in a laboratory experiment, all these things you can calculate. But once you have this function, which is not separation number, which is known as separation number, which is a function of all the known parameters, you can find out the target efficiency. So there is a chart which is there in the literature. So if you know this separation number for your system, you can find out the target efficiency. And this target efficiency what this is same as the probability of collision. So you basically find out this number, and from this number you find out the probability of collision. This is as simple as that. And how this correlation came, let's not go into that theory. Next one, the probability of exceeding the breaking stress. So for that we are defining something called sigma max, which is again you find this definition in this journal paper. I'll share the paper. If anyone is interested, they can go through the paper. And all these things are very involved solid mechanics. So these are factors of the information of the solid, but this is something which you can get, like if you know the information of your feet, you can estimate this sigma max. So you can see this is a big equation, but let's look into the functionality. Like this m1 and m2 is the masses of two bodies that is hitting each other. So in case of the jaw crusher, if I take particle is having that mass of m1, the m2 would be the mass of the arm of one jaw, or basically two jaws if you take wanted to estimate that taking into account of the two jaws. This v is what? This v is the relative velocity, of the particle, relative velocity with respect to the moving arm in case of jaw crusher. I'm taking the jaw crusher example so that you can see it in front of your eye, like what I'm trying to estimate. R1 and R2 are the radii of curvature of the bodies at an impact point. It's quite straightforward. And this epsilon and beta are what? Epsilon is the modulus of elasticity and beta are Poisson ratio of the bodies. So obviously all these are solid properties. And if we know all these things, we are in a position to estimate the sigma max. Now how the sigma max is related to the probability? This is related to the probability with this relation. But the probability of exceeding the breaking stress you can estimate if you know the sigma max, which you can calculate for your system, and sigma A is what? Is the breaking stress of the material. So it is quite obvious, like if your sigma max is now it's very high, right? What would be this P sigma? Suppose your sigma max
tends to 1,
right? It's quite obvious that if you the force at which the particle is hitting the surface, it's exceeding the breaking stress of the material, then the particle will break. The particle will form a crack inside it. That is what is represents here. This R is again something which people found it from the experiment. This part is quite simple to understand, but the expression of sigma max is something which came from solid mechanics. So I'm not going into the derivation of this term. And how they perform the experiment and all these things, everything is mentioned in this paper, which I'll share with you, no problem. And the third one is, now you have a crack inside the particle, you are using it. What is the probability that the crack will propagate and it will break? So again, this expression will again come from the propagation of crack with the information of solid lattice, solid mechanics, all these things. So this has somewhat this type of relatively easy to look relationship, where P is the pressure within the crusher and K is a constant, which depends on crushing mechanism, again a constant. So this is more or less a very empirical and some sort of some system information including. expression of all these three probabilities. Now, if you club all these probabilities, see the expression become a bit more complicated, where this delta E is the energy required to create a delta S change of shape in the particle. That is what we can estimate using this expression. So this is for your knowledge and expression, knowledge and all these things. So you just get an idea of what are the probabilities involved and how the expression looks like, nothing else. Right. And this is more general expression for calculating the energy if you know all these parameters in prior. Right. This is all about the probabilities which are involved. Now let's talk something about the crushing efficiency. So how we are defining the crushing efficiency? The definition is pretty easy. The ratio of surface energy created by crushing to the energy absorbed by the solid is the crushing efficiency, which is denoted as by this symbol. Right. It is quite obvious. So some energy was supplying, right? And the amount of surface energy that is created after absorbing your energy, it's the ratio between these two. Let's take small es is the surface energy per unit area, and small sp and small sf, this we have discussed already in the particle characterization, is the specific surface area of the product and feed respectively. Then the energy absorbed by a unit mass of the material would be something like this. And here we have the crushing efficiency. Now to estimate the crushing efficiency, you need all these three informations. The energy that is absorbed by a unit mass of the material, that you need to know. And the small e is also something which again from the solid mechanics you can estimate. It's the surface energy per unit area. Right. So this is the crushing efficiency only, but this is not the, if I think of an instrument, the energy that is being absorbed by the particle, we cannot estimate that energy directly. It's difficult to estimate that energy. What we know is the energy that we are directly supplying to the machine. That energy we know. So from the input energy to the energy which is being absorbed by the particle, there is a loss, right? So you are using some electrical energy which is converting, which is used to moving a motor maybe, and the motor is again attached with the shaft. That shaft is moving the arm of a part of your machine, and that moving arm is again giving a stress or impacting on a particle which is coming, and there the particle is feeling the energy which will be absorbed by the particle, right? So there is a huge loss between this, all these steps, to the electrical energy that you are supplying to finally the energy that is being supplied to the particle. There is a huge energy loss, and we club all these energy into a single efficiency term, which is we are designating as mechanical efficiency, right? So this, how we are defining this mechanical energy? The mechanical energy is the ratio of energy that is absorbed to the energy that we are giving as an input to the machine. So the energy that we are giving input to the machine, that we can estimate directly. Is that clear, whatever I'm saying? Or if you have any doubt, you just stop me and you can ask me. Generally, we see that the crushing efficiency is very low. So crushing efficiency itself is very low. You can think like the energy that is being absorbed by the particle and the ultimate energy that is being released because of the making of new surface, there itself the efficiency is pretty low, and if you club the mechanical energy, it will reduce further. So including mechanical energy, now we can say this is the definition of mechanical energy, Wn by W. W is the energy input to the machine per unit mass, and Wn is the energy that is being absorbed by the solid particle per unit mass. Right, now obviously the energy that we are giving is giving to the machine as an input. If that is equal to W, that expression will come easily if you put the expression of Wn here. So this multiplication of these two efficiency is basically the entire efficiency of your process. So starting from giving energy to a electrical energy to a machine to eventually get a particle into a smaller size, a big particle to a smaller size. This huge amount of energy will lose it. Now rest is more or less algebra. So if we wanted to directly find out the power, that is nothing but the energy. This is energy per unit mass product. So that multiplied by mass product will give you the power required. So just multiply it by m dot, and then we are converting this SP, which is the specific surface area of the particle, in terms of volume surface mean diameter. So from this to this derivation I had already done in the particle characterization. You can just go through the previous slides. You will see that how we can replace this SP in terms of volume surface mean diameter. So volume surface mean diameter is also known as outer diameter. And this is the expression. This we had already derived in the particle characterization chapter. So this is the final energy consumption that we can estimate. Or if you know the energy that you are giving to the machine, and finally the feed particle size you know, and the product particle size also you know. Particle by particle size, I am talking about the volume surface mean diameter. If you know, then you are in a position to estimate the efficiency. If you know all the other terms, you would be in a position to estimate the efficiency of the entire process, and which you will find.
So E time into eta C is the total efficiency.
Yeah, this is the total efficiency. This is the multiplication of total efficiency. Obviously, if an efficiency is always less than 1, right? So if you multiply these two efficiencies, so the overall efficiency has to be lower than eta m or eta c, right? So that's why the problem that we have solved in the last class, there you have seen the efficiency was given as 8%. Even the 8% is pretty high. Now if we compare to this kind of efficiency that we are seeing, that efficiency was nothing but this multiplication of these two efficiencies, taking into account both crushing and mechanical. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Do we have time? Then we can solve this problem quickly. Yeah, we have some time. So it's a pretty easy problem. So enough theory. Let's try to solve one problem. The problem is material is crushed in a black jaw crusher. Okay, black jaw crusher, we have already seen how the black jaw crusher looks like. Such that the average size of particle is reduced from 50 millimeter to 10 millimeter, with the consumption of energy which is given as 13 kilowatt per kg per second. So energy per unit mass product. Now what would be the consumption of energy? Okay, there is a problem in the construction of the sentence. Okay, what would be the energy that would be required to crush the same material from a size of 75 millimeter to an average size of 25 millimeter? 3 part: assume Rittinger's law, assume Kick's law, and assume Bond law to be applicable. So we have to estimate the energy for breaking the particle from 75 millimeter to 25 millimeter. This is what we have to estimate, and given that when the particle is reduced from 10 to 50 to 10 millimeter, the energy required is 13 kilowatt per kg per second. That is given. Now using these 3 laws, we eventually have to find out. For each and every case, we have to find out the energy required. And at the end, which we have to
comment on like which of these result would be regarded as being the more reliable and why. Now how should we proceed? The problem is pretty easy. The at least first three part is pretty easy. How should we proceed? The feed size, product size, you know, the energy consumption is also given. Feed size, product size, you know, energy consumption you have to find out. How will you proceed? Using Rittinger's law, using Kick's law, using Bond's law. Just go back and check the expression of the laws. Let me show you the Rittinger's law, one law expression.
Sir, we could use the proportionality.
Yeah, I mean, what is
So
given
like
here?
Suppose in Rittinger's law, like work is proportional to 1 by d product minus 1 by d feed. So, and we could do that for like both the cases, like 50 to 10 and then 75 to 25.
Yeah, same. It's basically from one expression you find out the constant and use the constant to find out the work required in the second case. Or take the ratio. Or take the ratio,
yes.
it will directly
divide it.
Yeah, it's the same. And you have to do it for three laws. Only the expression will change because the expressions are different for three laws. And this you already have. Yeah, so let's jot down the problem. So what is given? When dP is 10 millimeter, dF is 50 millimeter, the energy required is 13 kilowatt per kg per second. Right. Now the second case is when your dP is 25 millimeter, your dF is 75 millimeters. What would be W? That is what you have to find out. So find the constant from this information, use the constant and find the work for the second case for the three different laws, or you can take the ratio directly. In my case, what I did is I tried to find out the constant and put it in the second equation. So Rittinger's law had this expression. This we had already discussed and derived. So this directly we can use this expression for this problem. dF and dF both are given. Just put everything, find out Kr. Kr you will get 162.5, whatever. You put the again the Kr value here, and now your product size is 25 and your feed size was 75 millimeter. So you will get the work as 4.33 kilojoule per kg. This is what you will get. Again, using Kick's law, you will get the work done to be equal to 8.87 kilojoule per kg. If you use Kick's law, same, all the combinations are same, only I'm using the different law. Bond's law. If I use the Bond's law, relevant expression from Bond's law, try to find out, I will get the energy consumption as 6.28 kilojoule per kg. So for Bond's law, I am getting these as 6.28 kg per kilojoule per kg. For Kick's law, I am getting 8.87 kilojoule per kg. For Rittinger's law, I am getting 4.33 kilojoule per kg. Now comes the final question. So these three we have got. This is 4 point something, this is 8 point something, this is 6 point something. Right, 4 point something, 8 point something, 6 point something. Now, which of these results would be regarded as being more reliable and why? This is the question which is tricky.
Right, knowing these three answers, like three energies we have estimated using these three laws,
which one we should take for this case to be a reliable one, and why? You can see the minimum we are getting from Rittinger's law, the minimum work required. Bond's law is giving you somewhat in between, and the maximum we are getting from Kick's law. Now, which one we should use here?
Sir, maybe Kick's law.
Why?
Sir, like we at least get an upper bound to the consumption of energy, so that is like the max.
This is something which I had discussed in the last class. You remember at the end of when we finish the 3 laws, I have shown you one graph
Yes, sir.
where I had discussed like how we can decide which law to take and when.
So since the size of the particle is is very less feed particle, so we can say that Higgs law should be applied here, because for
Yeah.
written the
No, how less? See the particle order. It's in 100 to 10 millimeter span, right? So 10 to the power 2 to 10 to the power 1 millimeter. This size range. This is the size operating size range in this problem. Now go back and check the graph that we have discussed in the last class. Which law falls into this particle range? We had discussed this graph in the last class.
Sir, between that bond and kick.
Yes, somewhat here we will land up in this problem. Let's see. Yeah, so this is what we had discussed. And this is the given particle range for this problem. Somewhat here. So you can see both the bonds and Kick's law will give you reasonably good result. So consumption of energy using Bond's law or Kick's law will give more accurate estimate for this given problem. Rittender's law will give you an estimate which will not be correct for this problem. Right. So you will find similar problem in your assignment. Just try to solve it. This will help you to make the understanding clear. Similar type of problem. So whatever problem I'm discussing in the class, you will find similar type of problem in the assignment. And those are for your practice. I don't know whether you have started solving the assignment or not, but once we are covering one by one chapter, you can solve one, like problem 1, 2, 3. Now I think you can solve up to problem 3 or 4 in the assignment. And there is very few number of books which are available, and there is no such book available where you will find a problem for all type of chapters whatever we are discussing in this class or in this entire course. You will not find a single book covering everything. Yeah, just to try to solve the assignment problem, try to understand the problem that whatever we are solving in the class. That should be good enough for you to make your concept clear. Right, so I'll stop here, and if you have any questions, you can ask.
Sir, for the mechanical operation lab assignment, what